Hey everyone, so this is a video I didn't think I would ever have to make. However, if you've been watching our YouTube or Instagram closely, you'll know that Tito actually went missing. And that's because when I work on Tito and Cheeto's enclosure, I either do one of two things. I either stick them on the other side of this glass right here, or I put them up in the house. I usually put them up in the house if I'm like dealing with like fumes or a lot of dust. And one of the latest projects I was working on was the flooring. Whenever I would put the epoxy like on the trees and walls and things like that, the water would get on the floor and it pretty much just ruined the floor. And so what I had to do was take a huge sander and sand off all the epoxy, bring it to like the base layer of cement. And once I did that, it was gonna be like a super dusty job. So like I said, I put Tito and Cheeto like up in the house, but by the time I got done sanding it all, it got super late. And so what I did was I cleaned the other half of the wall really well. That way they weren't breathing in all this dust. And then I kind of left them there overnight just so I can go to sleep and then work on this portion of the enclosure the next day. But when I did that, Tito found one of the vents in the wall and it was blocked off from the previous owners, or so I thought, but he just pulled it right off the wall and he crawled through it. He found some of that soft duct and chewed his way through that. And that kind of led him to under the stairs of the house. And from there, he must have seen some sort of light coming through. So he proceeded to dig and chew at the wall until he literally like ate through to the outside of the house. To me, the crazy part is Cheeto was with him also. And I would have expected him to have, I would have expected him to have joined Tito in his little excursion, but I'm really glad he didn't, because as you can imagine, losing one pet is bad enough, let alone two. When I got down in the morning, I couldn't find either of them. I called for Tito and Cheeto, and luckily Cheeto actually came out from where Tito had left, and so I was able to see where he originally escaped from. Not that it would have been too hard to figure out anyway, since it's a small room. Like I said, I'm glad to have Cheeto, but losing a pet's never fun. So I'm gonna go through some of the things like I've done to help find Tito, but unfortunately I haven't even seen a sign of him. I've checked the roads and luckily I haven't seen any roadkill that resembles Tito. Luckily he's so big that like it's easy to tell, the regular wild raccoons apart from, a pet raccoon, just because he's a lot bigger and healthier than most of them. But let me go ahead and show you just kind of what it looked like for Tito as he was trying to escape. But yeah. All right, so they would have stayed on this side of the door. So going through. So this is the room that he would have been in. So these were the stairs I was talking about. And so this is insulation from the vent that he pulled out. And essentially what he did was he came over to here, grabbed on, pulled this off, and then climbed through. So as you can see, this is the hole he climbed through. Now I'm gonna switch over to my phone just because that has a better light on it. But yeah, I'll show you where he left. There's a little exit wound up there. For the first couple of days, I actually left that grate off in hopes that Tito would actually come back through it. But I don't really think he can get back through that duct just because of the weird angle it's at. It's easy for them to leave, but not so easy for them to come back. So after a couple of days, I just replaced it, put it back. That way I don't have to worry about Cheeto escaping as readily. But with that being said, I'll go ahead and show you what the outside looks like, because he did chew a pretty big hole through that. So as you can see, a pretty decent sized hole in the house, and you know it was him because there's a little raccoon foot. you guys see him?
Don't send that to anyone unless you say this is Cheeto.
When I first found out Tito went missing, I literally spent hours looking for him. I went up to all my neighbors, let them know what happened, and asked them to reach out to me if they ever see a raccoon. And on top of that, like I put my name on all kinds of lists for like DNR, animal control, and like if anybody calls about a raccoon, they'll get in touch with me. We got a thermal camera because as you can see here, like there's so much brush, it's like almost impossible. Like check every nook and cranny because he can climb in trees, find a hole in the ground, pretty much anything. He'll feel safe. And there's just too many places to check out, and so my hopes, I got a thermal camera to kind of cut through that mess, but no luck. I've seen a lot of other animals, but no raccoons.
That ain't no squirrel, man. Squirrels don't come down nighttime. That's like a...
Yep, there it is. We also hired a dog tracker. And no results with that either. We saw something that maybe potentially be a raccoon. We put a trap out there, and I'll go check that in a little bit, but it's just been pretty unsuccessful. I have my security cameras out. They haven't detected anything. We found a mouse, but that was about it. It. Literally, this has been like the most unproductive search I've ever had, and unfortunately, losing a pet, it's not fun, and we're trying to cope with it the best as possible and do whatever we can to help find Tito and bring him back home. So last night we did see something on the thermal camera. It looked raccoon shaped. It kind of moved like him also. We got a flashlight, shined it, saw the eyes glowing back at us. However, we couldn't get close enough to actually see if it was Tito or not. So we put a trap out there, and we're gonna go check that trap now, see if it was Tito, see if we even got anything. But yeah, fingers crossed, because so far this is like the closest lead we've had to seeing Tito, but I don't have very high hopes because I don't think it was the size of Tito, even if it was a raccoon. So as you can see, nothing in the trap. I didn't think so, but just look at this. This is where we saw him. He was in all of this, and it's just so packed that you couldn't get into it very well. And so he was easily able to escape us. But yeah, this is probably one of the hardest things I've tried to do. There's literally no sign of them, even with like security cameras, traps, thermal cameras, tracking dogs, and all of that. We literally have had really no sign. So I don't know what to do at this point. No luck today. So I've been talking to a lot of people with pet raccoons, and they say they've run into the same problem I'm in, that their pet raccoon will actually go off for a couple of weeks to a couple of months at a time. But in all these things, their pet raccoons always return. And with the amount of woods we have out back, he will be more than fine out there. He's got plenty of food, he's got sources of water, and he's definitely got enough space to avoid any main roads. Since winter time, they don't necessarily hibernate, but they do something like that. They definitely slow down and sleep a lot more during this time. And so I think Tito could be out somewhere in a tree, you know, just kind of overwintering, I guess. And then he'll come home once spring arrives. But it's definitely given me hope from all the other people that have saying that they've went through the exact same thing. And one person even said it took a year and a half before their raccoon came back to them. So although a year and a half isn't ideal, I just want him to be living a good life, and that's all I really want from him in the end. And to know that like he's safe and doing well. But I just want to thank each and every one of y'all for all the thoughts and prayers you sent out to us while we've been looking for him. And all the people who watch our videos, get merch, and buy paintings and t-shirts and all that. Just because it has allowed us to look for Tito the best way possible. Even though we haven't found him yet, I still feel like I've done everything in my power to, try to get him home. And it wouldn't be possible without y'all. So I just want to thank you for that. And as far as the channel goes, it's going to stay Tito the Raccoon just because he's the one who started it all. He's done so much for making people happy, and he's also, broken down the stigma a little bit that raccoons are bad. So it's just kind of dedication to him and what we've started through Tito. Thank you for all you've done for us, and I'll give you any updates if we hear anything about it. And yeah, I probably won't say a whole lot more about it unless there is an update. And so far, it's just going to be Cheeto and the rest of the family going to be on these videos. I'm going to try to probably put more videos of the other pets as well, just because I feel like there's a lot of good content we can do with them. But anyways, thanks again, guys. I wish you all the best, and thanks. Say cheese.